A neutralization of the race before a hectic breakaway battle. This was the first stage where a break actually got a decent advantage, and you'll see that from the final climb. Finishes in Mejev, 20Ks, 4% finish. Just not hard enough to be worthy of any GC contenders, making their teams put in a lot of effort. There cannot be any gaps when guys are this close at this level. Hope you had a good rest day. I had a pretty good rest day as well. Thanks for asking. Make sure to subscribe down below. Big stage tomorrow. You won't want to miss that. Pogacar's in the yellow jersey, 39 seconds ahead of Jonas. Geschke in the polka dots. Could he hang on to that today in the break? No one's fighting for it. Out the gate because of this downhill start and it's an uphill finish. The big rouleurs suit it, but then they're not going to be competitive on the finish. It was only afterwards on the little uphill rise as you see attacks going. Pogacar is about mid-pack. He's letting his team do work, try and control the break at this stage. 20Ks into the stage. Morich going, Quinn Simmons, Jorgensen, the two Americans active today. And here we see something interesting. That's Tom Pidcock in a white jersey, about 150 on GC. Ro Van Baal, Ganner as well tried. Ineos were trying to slip just secretly Yates or Pidcock into the break today and hoping they could get him in a big break with rouleurs and, I don't know, trying to gain some time. Didn't work for Pidcock or Yates, but there would be two Ineos riders in the break eventually. It took so long to go once again. It's just fighting over and over. Here, shit the back for UAE. Bennett out with COVID. Micah does have COVID, but was able to start. And eventually, even this break doesn't go. And you see Pogacar here, look, he's giving food to, I think, Micah or Soler, and he's monitoring the front of the bunch, controlling the break. He's looking. Who is it? Who is it? Is that too many? All right, I'm jumping over to this. No Movistar allowed in. He's monitoring the break at this point. Powless, I think, is there. He's on like 2 minutes on GC. And so I think Madouas there as well. Kruiswijk made it into this move. So that doesn't go, but it is the same sort of characters who were in that move who did make it eventually. Van Baal, Luis Leon Sanchez with a teammate. And we eventually see it getting blocked up behind as Ganna extends that gap out. Roglic asks permission to do a P. Pogacar gets permission from Ineos to do a P, who can push him forward so he can P together with Roglic. So that's great fun for everybody. And we'll have a breakaway finally allowed to have some decent leash because we didn't on stage 9. UAE didn't, and an easier day for Roglic. Jumbo pretty much in the wheels all day today. Kamner on 8:23, I think, on GC, the closest man. And UAE kind of paced him so that Pogacar wouldn't lose the jersey. And for the other guys in the break, they don't care if they win by 3, 5, 7, 10 minutes. They're not going for the yellow jersey. Bettiol counters, and we already see the Group 2 dynamics. It always seems to happen, especially you saw on the Tour de France last year. It was more pronounced. Eventually, a protest stopped the race. It was neutralized. Bettiol's checking. I keep my 30-second gap, right? And they did. Everyone kept their gaps. I'm not sure if the Gruppetta was able to come back. So the break was 28 behind Bettiol. They got to stay in the shade. And then the main peloton was still kind of cruising along, not knowing what had happened at this point. They were, I don't actually know what gap they were given. Bettiol just trying to keep temperature in his tires. I think he's on softs before the safety car comes out and they resume racing, which he does. Then the breakaway gets to go. Hofstadter attacks that break. I think it gave him another 10 seconds. Meanwhile, back in the bunch, they have to wait 9 minutes. And you see Sagan, little moment. I mean, he would have been memed into eternity if he'd fallen off while they're all at the cars. And they're still waiting. And you see Bauer hasn't taken over. The gap's gone to 42 seconds. Sagan's watching the race on TV, giving some tactical advice, and finally they get back going. It's 8:33. So about Kemner's gap, Bauer starts working on the front with Fred Wright for their teammates Schultz and Wright, but Ganna's not working for Van Baal, which is kind of curious to me, despite Bertiot up the road. Wright then tries to bridge with Zimmerman, and it's just all-out attacks from here on out on the Mejev climb. Kamenu is getting sat on by everybody. He's just such a big name in these breaks now that he can't play it too cool anymore. They sit on him. Those two are marking each other. And Kamner also at some point had to decide, do I go for the yellow jersey? He'd miss out by 11 seconds today. Eventually they bridge across to Alberto Bettiol, and notice who's been able to sit on the entire time that Bettiol's been up the road. So that move was not in vain. Magnus Cort, who wore the polka dot jersey for a number of days, got to sit on. Kamner, a big effort with Simmons and Leknesund on the wheels. So having numbers helped in this break, as we can see, Bettiol drops, but Fred Wright goes to the front. Kind of curious. As a launch pad to set pace, for Luis Leon Sanchez, who is about fifth wheel. And we still got Schultz, who's quite a quick finisher, Jorgensen's strong, Van Baal's a big engine. The brake's now at 9:11, so UAE Kamna's in the virtual maillot jaune at this point, and Sanchez predictably attacks. And it looks like the group dynamics are going to give him the win. Schultz is going right. He's marking everything, doing a brilliant job, keeping them from any sort of extended cooperation. And you see Kamna getting frustrated, trying to get people to work with him, and his yellow jersey's slipping away as Sanchez now takes, it said 25 seconds, but it definitely came down a little bit quicker than that as Schultz and Jorgensen, those two plus Van Baal were probably the strongest on the climbing sections. Caught here, you see, actually dropped off these accelerations with 2Ks to go off the Zimmerman Thomas Kamna group. He's dropped, but the trio up front aren't able to work together well enough. And Van Baal bridges across, attacks. Jorgensen spends his last bullet closing down the Van Baal attack. Last 500 meters on the runway, they all start finessing each other with Fred Wright coming back. Thomas starts to launch or launches about 450. Schultz spends a bullet closing that, and it's Magnus Cort, who was kind of anonymous all day, keeping quiet in the breakaway. Maybe people thought he'd spent too much in the opening stages. Gets onto Schultz's wheel, who was stronger than Luis Leon Sanchez, but not strong enough to hold off Magnus Cort, who has one last kick to win his, I think, second Tour de France stage for what has been a very, very successful tour already for him, and an unfortunate throw for Nick Schultz. But we'll see more of him if he gets more opportunities later in his career. Pogacar sprinted but didn't take any seconds. Cort wins the stage. Important, I think 120 points for Education First as well, which is not insignificant. Ahead of Nick Schultz, Luis Leon Sanchez third, Jorgensen, then Van Baal, Zimmerman, Thomas, Leknesson, Wright, Kemna, 22 seconds back, so he wouldn't get the yellow jersey ahead of Tadej Pogacar. Here's what Magnus Cort had to say after the stage.
When we entered the runway and I could see that things was coming back together, I looked up. I think there was kind of a podium down in the corner, and I saw, I think, the sign of Tour de France, and yeah, I told myself this one is mine now. I just had to take it, no matter the price.
Here's what Tadej Pogacar had to say after the stage.
It's never easy to win the Tour de France. There's a lot of pressure, but when you have to deal with COVID problems, I suppose it mustn't be easy for you.
Yeah, already if everyone is healthy and you're doing protocols, mask around people, and it's already hard. But yeah, when you get the one positive in your own bubble, then it's just worrying, stress, and yeah, I hope we survive until the finish.
I'm glad there was a much needed breakaway stage. We were due one, but tomorrow is going to be an all-out GC fight. Make sure you subscribe to see the recap video of that dropping here tomorrow. Ciao.